Three presidential candidates came together on Easter Sunday to announce in a news conference that no way were they going to withdraw from the race. During the Q&A, Isko Moreno said he wanted Leni Robredo to drop her presidential bid. He even used a basketball analogy, saying any one of them could sub for her and perhaps make a three-point shot. Both Lacson and Bert Gonzales disowned that statement. Manny Pacquiao nowhere to be found. His plane hovering above Manila, waiting for the go signal to land. Manny's campaign manager said it was a blessing in disguise that he missed out on that press con. The aftermath spawned jokes and memes, references to Easter egg hunts at a luxury hotel, stealing the spotlight from a risen Christ, and many, many more. But there's only 3 weeks to go before D-Day. So what now and what next? What unity versus the Uniteam? Has everything gone? Are we looking at a President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.? Because if we are, then maybe we should get with the program. Good evening, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual.
The presscon indirectly endorsed Mayor Isko Moreno, but unwittingly reinforced a potential Marcos victory. No? But at this stage, their combined survey average is between 5 to 6%. No? What transpired yesterday was apparently a unity among non-players who have become potential spoilers in the final leg of the campaign.
Our guests tonight, political analyst Richard Hedarian joining us here in the studio, and the head of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's volunteers group, Gilbert Lawenco, and joining us via Zoom, the campaign manager of Senator Manny Pacquiao, Mr. Buddy Zamora, and Vice President Leni Robredo spokesperson Barry Gutierrez. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us. But before we begin this discussion, let me first bring in our correspondent, Cian Arcangel. She is on the campaign trail with Senator Manny Pacquiao in Ilocos Norte. Cian, the campaign sending mixed messages on the senator's behalf 2 days after that press con. Cian?
Pia, Senator Manny Pacquiao's campaign manager, Buddy Zamora, said in a television interview that Pacquiao was really on his way to the press conference at the Manila Peninsula Hotel, but his plane was unable to land in Manila until after it ended. Reporters covering Pacquiao were told that he would go straight to Manila Pen from General Santos City. It was announced during the press conference that Pacquiao would instead come out with a recorded message, but no video has been released. Given the criticism that the presser has received, Zamora said it was divine intervention that Pacquiao did not show up. But Pacquiao's running mate, Buhay Party List Congressman Lito Atienza, insists that the senator actually never planned on going to the Manila Pen. Pacquiao has yet to speak about his absence at the press conference. Yesterday, he attended a prayer meeting in Marikina, but this was closed to the media. We managed to record Pacquiao coming in and out of the church, but we were not allowed inside and there were no opportunities for an interview. Pacquiao did not have any public engagements today, and his team said that he was busy having meetings at his home at Forbes Park. Pia?
So, Cian, tell us more about the take of Senator Pacquiao's campaign manager.
Pia, Buddy Zamora said in the television interview that he was relieved about Pacquiao's absence, given that the presidential candidates who attended the press conference were heavily criticized. Some have questioned why the male candidates were seemingly ganging up on Vice President Leni Robredo, who was not at the Manila Pen and is the only female presidential bet. Zamora said Pacquiao simply wanted to reiterate that he was not backing out of the presidential race had he been at the press conference. Pia?
Cian, what does Mr. Zamora, who by the way is our guest tonight, say about Isko Moreno's call for VP Robredo to withdraw?
Pia, Zamora says that Pacquiao is not in favor of anyone backing out of the presidential race. Tomorrow, we expect Pacquiao to finally break his silence about his absence at the Manila Peninsula press conference when he campaigns here in Ilocos Norte. Pacquiao is expected to have a full day ahead with motorcades scheduled across 8 towns and a grand rally that will be held here at San Nicolas Plaza. Pia?
Cian Arcangel reporting live from Ilocos Norte. Well, let's now go to our guests. All right, where do we begin? We have a lot to talk about tonight. Let's start with this. No? Did you all have a restful Holy Week? Barry, you first, very quickly.
Well, I was having a restful Holy Week until Sunday.
Until Sunday morning.
Then all of a sudden, I had to watch a press conference. But yeah,
okay.
Generally, it was more restful than it has been at any other time in the last 6 months. So, we should be grateful for, small blessings.
Oh, interesting yung sagot mo. Babalikan natin yun kasi it shows when you knew what was going on. But anyway, Sir Buddy, how was your Holy Week?
I had a fine Holy Week. Spent my time playing golf, my golf course in Bert. So I played Thursday and Friday.
Okay. Gilbert Lauenco?
Well, obviously, I did not have a restful Holy Week. Because even during the Holy Week, we normally have meetings with other people. And on that Sunday, of course, definitely, it was not a restful day for me.
Yeah, and I guess hindi din restful yung Thursday, Friday, Saturday mo. Dahil pinaghandaan nyo yun, ano?
No.
Okay. And Richard?
Well, I mean, I'm quite workaholic, so I observe my Sabbath very strictly, right? So kaya hindi ako pumatol sa Twitter or anything like that. Sabi ko, patulan ko yan sa Monday. And since then, hindi pa tapos the fallout. Yeah.
Okay. Ade, patulan na rin natin ngayong gabi. So, you didn't think I'd start with that question because, the usual peace and quiet of an Easter Sunday, when I say usual, no, we're used to that kasi, shattered by this, pasensya na, shattered talaga, by this Easter egg hunt. Sorry, Easter Sunday press conference that never was. So let's have Gilbert first, explain this to us on behalf of his principal. And by the way, disclosure, Gilbert and I are college batchmates at the Ateneo. So Gilbert, kaya mo yan ipaliwanag sa amin? And like we Ateneans say, one big fight. Go ahead.
Well, yes, actually, the primary purpose of that press conference is very simple and straightforward. It was a response to repeated and increasing calls for all the candidates there to withdraw in favor
Leni
of
Robredo's favor.
Yes, in favor of one candidate. So this discussion started way back, but then there was an agreement between all the candidates in question to issue a press statement stating, number one, they will not be withdrawing, that they will continue to fight till the end, and number two, they are uniting for a clean and honest election with specific statement na there should be no irregularities and that they will respect the sanctity of the election. And that was the primary goal of that particular press con at that particular time.
But two things, in the last few weeks, that was what your principal, what Senator Ping, what everybody else was saying.
Yes.
Di ba?
Yes.
In press conferences, in ambush interviews, even on Twitter. Yan din naman ang sinasabi. Why the need to call a press conference like that?
Because although they already...
Even if you have to emphasize something, like people say, why don't you just tweet, send out an email, post on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even.
The rationale was there was already statements to that effect that we will not be withdrawing, but the statements or the call for withdrawal still came on repeatedly, and it was an increase in nature. So they decided perhaps a press conference would say, sorry, don't factor in us withdrawing in your campaign strategy was in order. That was the rationale behind it. So they wanted to make it as official and as in a united front to once and for all stop all the speculations. Well, that was the rationale for that press conference.
Yeah, you wanted to stop the speculation,
Yes.
but it didn't stop. And now,
Well,
para bang nangitlog tuloy, hindi ba? But anyway, babalikan natin yan. Let's go to Sir Buddy Zamora, who is campaign manager for Senator Manny Pacquiao. Join us again, like I said earlier, via Zoom. So, Sir Buddy, nakahinga pala kayo ng maluwag, no? Because as you've been widely quoted, you're very relieved that Senator Manny did not join that press conference. Can you explain to us more why?
Well, we were surprised that there was going to be a press con that Sunday noon, because this was arranged between Senators Lacson and Senator Pacquiao. We were quite surprised that to find out that there was going to be a press con to be held in in Manila Pen. But we were aware that Senator Pacquiao had said yes to attending the press con. So he was really on his way from Jensen to Manila to attend the affair. Unfortunately, they're forced to go around for almost an hour in the air. And upon landing, they were even forced also to delay their taxi due to the air traffic. So that led to the non-appearance of Manny Pacquiao in the press con, the presser.
Unfortunately or fortunately?
Well, on hindsight, no, fortunately, but we didn't know what was to happen because everything transpired between two senators while Senator Pacquiao was in Jensen, while the rest of us were all enjoying our Easter vacation.
Well, when did you and the rest of the team find out about this press conference? Saturday night or early Sunday morning?
I found out about it Saturday night.
Okay. But they were planning it since when? Kailan pa pinag-uusapan ni Manny at ni Ping?
That I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So hindi oo. Because ang sinasabi ng iba is that sadya na hindi nakarating si Manny Pacquiao. So sadya or nagkataon lang na hindi lang makaland ang eroplano?
That's not true. I think you can check from the records that the plane was overhead for so long. For almost an hour.
Yeah. So Manny was good with the statement that no, we're not withdrawing, but he did not agree with that statement that Isko Moreno came out with during the Q&A na pinapag-withdraw niya si Leni.
Yes, definitely. We do not agree on calling on anybody to withdraw. As I said, it's illogical for anybody to go this far and then withdraw at the very last minute.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in Barry Gutierrez, spokesperson for the Leni Robredo campaign. Exactly when did you find out about this, Barry? You and the rest of the campaign team, that this press conference was happening, like at 11 o'clock that same morning? Or, were you forewarned a few hours before that, a few minutes before that?
Same as Sir Buddy. We got an advisory. I think they sent out the advisory to media the evening before. So Saturday evening, we already knew there was going to be a press conference. But at that point, it was not yet clear what the press conference was going to be about. And it wasn't even clear who would be there present at the press conference.
Yeah, at hindi naman kayo napraning nun.
No, our position has always been that our focus is on our own campaign. On what we need to do in the remaining 3 weeks until election day. So, if these other candidates wanted to hold the press conference, and from the initial indications at least, they were going to simply say, we're going to push through with our campaigns, then, that was certainly their privilege. And if they felt that they really needed to throw an Easter Sunday morning press conference to say that, then, that was their call.
Richard Darren here in the studio with us, joining us live. Richard, did they unwittingly secure a BBM victory, or did somebody gain from this? And when we say gain, we're talking victory already, because we only have 3 weeks to go. And I use the word unwittingly because we are allergic to that word. When used in the political context, it brought a president to his knees.
Yeah, I think the happiest man in the Philippines, at least over the past few days, was the supposed front runner. No question about it. To be honest, the first time I heard about it, hindi ko pinatulan, but I kind of saw it in my feeds and all. I said, okay, maybe what's happening here is that Isko Moreno is creating a new front by asking some of the other candidates who are not very competitive to actually rally behind him. And I thought that would make it interesting, because I think I've been one of the folks saying that this could be a 3-way race, not a 2-way race or 2.5-way race. But apparently something else has happened. I know we're going to take a break, so I'm not going to go too much into what I'm going to say. We're going to continue this later on.
Sure. Thank you, co-anchor Richard.
Course,
yeah, that's right. As Richard said, we have to be back. After this quick break, stay tuned.
Given the nature of our presidential elections, it's a winner-take-all contest. And obviously, the finals will be between the first and second placer. At this stage in the game, there's no room for third, fourth, or even fifth placer.
Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual, your weekly political appointment fix. I'm Pia Ontiveros, and join us tonight, my guest co-anchor, political analyst Richard Lidarian, the head of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's Volunteers Group, Gilbert Lawenco, like I said, my college batchmate, and via Zoom, Senator Manny Pacquiao's campaign manager, Buddy Zamora, and VP Leni Robredo, spokesperson Barry Gutierrez, talking to us, like I said, via Zoom. Earlier, we had Cian Arcangel from the Isko Moreno, from the Manny Pacquiao I'm talking, Manny Pacquiao campaign. Okay. Confusing, ang dami kasing kandidato. Dapat kasi dalawa na lang eh. But anyway, okay. Ibang issue yan. Ibang episode yan. Balikan natin si Richard. Richard, continue what you were saying.
That's good.
Yeah.
No problem. You can pass over me if you need that.
No.
I don't want to get into the quagmire. No, I mean, going back to that, akala ko actually what could happen, I thought that would be a good strategic move by the Isko campaign is to ask let's be honest, Isko is administration friendly, but obviously a rival of Bongbong Marcos.
Right.
Bongbong Marcos got Sara Duterte on his side, but not President Duterte on his side. So I was thinking what's going to happen here is that Isko is going to get some of the other candidates who work in this administration, who are close to this administration, and who statistically do not have any chance to make it forward to rally behind him. It may be 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, but the multiplier effect, the prestige effect could be strong. I think that's what's going to happen.
He could have gotten them to rally behind him if he had stuck to the script, diba?
Right.
No, just saying, we're not withdrawing. And then, we're for honest
and my point is
and then period.
I thought
diba?
it's going to be a unity kind of conversation. Paano naman
Hindi na unity ngayon. Paano yun?
I thought it was a unity, but paano ka naman mag-unity kung walang mag-withdraw? So I don't see it's like unity in not withdrawing. I just don't see what's going on. And it was just layers and layers of
different messages.
It was unfathomable, let's just say. And then the other thing was our number 3, 5, and number 12 asking number 2 to drop out and sub for number 2 versus number 1. I don't get the math. Right? I just don't see the math. So there's so many layers to this that went completely against what I was expecting, because I really thought this is going to be an important strategic move. Isko has a lot of overlap with BBM, not as much perhaps with Leni. Yeah. So any surge in Isko's numbers would make this race much more competitive, even to the benefit of the Leni side. I was thinking that was going to be the direction. Now we're in a completely different picture. That's what I'm saying. If you're Bongbong now, popcorn's out.
Yeah. Gilbert, sagutin mo yan.
Well, in one instance, I would agree with Mr. Hadrian, no? But at the beginning, it was really just simply we were not going to withdraw.
Yeah.
But then during the Q&A, things popped out.
Yeah.
But we will not back down from the call, because although that was spontaneous at that particular point.
Spontaneous meaning off script.
Yes, it was spontaneous. But, this feeling has always been there with our candidate. Because it started in October 2020 when Madam Vice President filed her candidacy. This hashtag withdraw Isko started, and so on and so forth. And it got into a level that it was very much increasing for the past few days. So he kind of felt, coming from where where he's been, sabi, bakit ako ang pinapa-withdraw nyo? Ikaw ang mag-withdraw. It's always been there at the back of his mind. Yeah. So it came out during the Q&A.
Then why doesn't he just ignore it?
Which one? The question?
Yeah,
he's very transparent. He, as you say, you see, he will tell you what he feels at that particular point. He's not going to cover it. So in that sense,
but the problem was that he went off script, and therefore you lost control, right?
No, because we always we always anticipate that our candidate will sometimes go off script, because he's very transparent. He will tell you what he feels at that particular moment. He will not filter it for the sake of politics or campaign, because that's who he is. Kung ano yung nararamdaman niya, he will tell you at that particular point. And he's not going to change for whatever
Kanina you
reason.
said because it came up, no? And for a while, from different sides, no? Saying na, kasi kasalanan ng media yan eh. Bakit kasalanan ng media yan? Kayo naman yung sumasagot. Well, no matter what the media asks, I mean, it's up to the candidate to answer or parry the question, right? So why
Well, I was not there when he answered kasalanan ng media, but knowing from his past responses, he normally says, well, it came out because there was a question, so I answered. So I think in that sense, that's what he wanted to say. It might not have come out exactly that way, but knowing him, he would say, well, the question came up, I answered. the way I felt. That's how we would explain it.
Okay. Let's go back to Buddy Zamora, campaign manager for Senator Manny Pacquiao. Sir Buddy, like earlier, no, we already said that hindi ito. No, we're going to Buddy, not Barry. Buddy Zamora. Yeah. Thank you, Direk. Let's go to Buddy Zamora. He's still there, right?
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Well, sir, okay. Kanina, nabanggit na, no, na this is not something that Senator Manny Pacquiao agrees with, no? Ayaw naman niya na sabihin na mag-withdraw si Leni. Can you explain to us more why, why that sentiment? And then we're going to ask other questions. Go ahead.
What's the question again?
This is not the call for Leni Robredo to withdraw, which Isko Moreno made. Manny Pacquiao does not agree with that, right? Can you explain to us more why?
Well, in the first place, I don't think she will withdraw. So what's the use of asking her to withdraw?
Okay. And when Manny found out na yan ang nasabi ni Isko Moreno, ano yung sinabi niya?
Well, he found out only after reviewing the videotape that was what Mayor Moreno was asking for.
And what were his exact words? What were Senator Manny Pacquiao's exact words when he found out that was what was said?
Well, we've always had friendly. We were always in friendly terms with the VP, and I think you could witness from the body language in the previous presidential debate that it was the two communicating with each other, while the others were another group. So I myself, I came from, remember I supported Pinoy Aquino in 2010 elections. So we were all together during the Aquino administration. And most of those who followed Leni are also my friends.
Even some in the Isko Moreno campaign?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Barry, can you respond to that that sentiment, no? Na this is something that, well, like Gilbert was explaining earlier, it is off script. It wasn't meant to be said at all. Although ito yung na-highlight sa totoo lang. And for lack of a better word, nasapawan yung original message, right, Gilbert? Barry?
Well, if it wasn't supposed to be said, then it shouldn't have been said. And the point is, there has been ample time to walk it back. They have not taken the opportunity. In fact, my understanding is they've doubled down on this particular call. But unlike other candidates, a call for us to withdraw is something we will simply ignore, and we will proceed with our own campaign. We are adults after all. We know that in the course of election season, there will be different opinions. Some of them will be opinions you don't like. People will be saying many things to you, calling on you to do different things. And if you don't agree, then simply do what you've been doing. We don't feel the need to call a press conference to say that we are proceeding and we are turning down the call of Mayor Isko for VP Leni to withdraw. I don't think that's necessary at this stage, particularly at this late stage of the campaign with only 20 days to go before the election. I think our actions should speak for themselves. So if somebody says withdraw and you don't feel like doing so, then simply proceed with the campaign. That's what everybody is doing after all.
Barry, pero pag-usapan din natin ito, no? Nabanggit na rin ni Gilbert, no? All these calls for Isko and the others to withdraw in Leni's favor, whether or not it is an official statement from the campaign. Let's just call a spade a spade. These so-called lone wolves, no, na out on their own, not necessarily authorized, so-called by the campaign, but talking to the different campaigns na mag-withdraw na lang kayo in favor of Leni, who is number 2, etc., whether or not there is imprimatur from the campaign. And of course, pwede niyong i-deny yan eh. But this is what, in a large part, led to all this, no? All this talk about withdrawing in her favor.
Well, let's be clear. There's only one person named who supposedly actually asked for a meeting with any of the three candidates who were present there on the Easter Sunday press conference. And we've already clarified that that person was not authorized to speak for the campaign. But even the statements from Gilbert earlier, he was pointing to hashtags and statements on social media, which happened in October after VP Leni filed her candidacy. So again, are we to be held to account for what people, individual netizens on Twitter or Facebook will express as their sentiment? I mean, this is a campaign. So part and parcel of it will be people, voters, Filipinos expressing their opinions on what the candidate should do. And I think that we should all be adults here and deal with these things in a professional manner. No need to actually throw a tantrum. No need to actually make a big thing out of it. If it's something that you don't agree with, then simply proceed with what you're doing. But definitely, this is not a case of us trying to pretend that we're not talking to them when, in fact, the fact of the matter is there have been no conversations, at least actively pursued by the campaign since October of last year.
But part and parcel of the Leni campaign is a very strong social media presence also. Don't deny that, Barry. Ikaw talaga.
Well, true,
More,
but-
sandali lang. We have to take a break. Sandali lang. More from our guests when we return. This is Politics as Usual.
This is also a classic case of political gaslighting. No? It was such a horrible sight to see a table of men publicly attacking a lady. No? And, it's really bad optics for them. No? And it sounded horrible.
Welcome back to Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Still with me here in the studio, Gilbert Lewenco and Richard Hedarian, and via Zoom, Buddy Zamora and Barry Gutierrez. Gilbert Lewenco, your campaign is claiming if Isko withdraws, then his votes would most likely go to BBM. Talk to us about those numbers and that study that you did, yung mga second preference. Kung
Yes,
sabihin.
we had a study prior, few weeks before, months before, studying about the aspect of withdrawal, but it was not supposed to be public. But we made the study if ex-candidate withdrew, where would the votes go? And we found that if we withdrew, majority of our votes will go to BBM. And
Majority meaning what percent?
around 80%.
80.
80.
Okay.
That will
This was when? How many months ago?
we did it a few months ago, I think then a few weeks ago, around 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And
Pareho
then,
pa rin?
Pareho pa rin.
80%?
Around
Okay.
80% of us will go, or of our voters will go to BBM.
Okay.
And if we withdrew, the margin between number one and whoever was number two would actually increase.
Okay.
But if
Leni withdrew?
Leni withdrew, the majority of her votes will of course go to either ours or the other candidates, but never to BBM.
Other candidates meaning Ping, Manny.
Paying Manny and us, majority.
Did you have the division for that? Like which percentage goes to?
What we had was majority would go to us, around I think 30% at that time, before this, of course.
Yeah.
And then, but the important aspect was whoever was number two, the lead between the number one contender would go down to 16. So I think this percolated within the mind of our candidate also that
16 kung si Isko ang number 2.
yes.
And kung si Leni,
If Leni withdrew,
Yeah.
whoever's number two, presumably us, would have just had 16% behind the number one.
oo.
But if we withdrew, our votes would go to BBN, and it would round be 37% between 1 and 2.
Oh. Tapusin mo. So, if Leni withdrew, if Isko, you check, no? If it
Yeah.
was Manny who withdrew, if it was Ping. So,
No, just the two of us.
Oh,
We only-
yun lang yung pinag-aralan
with due respect
mo.
to the other candidates.
Sus Mariosep, akala ko lahat.
Yeah.
O bakit Leni and Ping, Leni and...
Because at that time we said, this is a three-way fight. We agreed with Mr. Hadrian. So we scenarioed that game based on the premise that it was a three-way fight. If one withdrew, where would the votes go? If one withdrew, who would benefit? So we gamed it, we scenarioed it, and that was what the study came about.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be just between us for possible campaign strategy.
And so, yung mga BBM voters, second preference nila is Isko.
Yes.
Isko voters, sinong preference? Sorry, sino ang second preference?
Their second preference would go From us, it would go to BBM. If Isko withdrew, their second choice mostly would go to BBM.
Okay, and that was, like you said, true a few months ago and then
And
true
it was reinforced
2
couple
weeks
of
ago.
weeks ago. Yes.
Okay, and that's, ito ba yung sinasabi mong dun sa Facebook post mo na there were events, quote, there were events which transpired behind the scenes which caused the statement and reactions.
Ano?
This one, or the increased calls for him to
increased
withdraw?
calls for the withdrawal for Isko. Coming from his background, when you tell him to mabitabi ka, in his mind, in his heart, it was very offensive. Yun na naramdaman, ang dating sa kanya parang mabigat. It was very hard for him. So, it was a reaction na, ba't mo ako pinag-withdraw? Ikaw mag-withdraw.
Okay.
And then, based of course on what we discussed on the numbers, it had a quantitative background for that kind of discussion. But we admit, it was not really part of the script at that particular point.
Yeah,
It came about when the question and answer.
Okay, and this was about the numbers, not because babae ang isang kandidato.
No.
Hindi.
With due respect, that was never an issue with our candidate. If Senator Marcos was the one who asked him to withdraw, he would have been saying the same thing. He doesn't really factor that in, although it does come out probably optics-wise. But that was never really factor with him when his decision came out.
And ito yung basis ng pagkasabi, yung basketball analogy ni Isko na pwede bang magpasab na lang kasi baka kami maka 3-point shot kami.
That was at the back of his mind, I would presume.
Richard, you want?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm looking at the numbers now. I mean, more than half of Isko's numbers could go to BBM if he withdraws. But Leni could only benefit around like 20% or something like that. So a withdrawal of Isko will not significantly help the Robredo camp. It will more help the BBM camp. That is why I don't understand some folks are calling for Isko to withdraw if their purpose is to defeat the front runner, right? I think the better Isko does in this race, it's better for the opposition, it's better for the race to make it more competitive, among other things. So yun ang tinitingnan ko. But at the end of the day, you don't, I mean, it's like beauty queen pageant, right? No one remembers the first runner-up,
Yes.
you know?
Exactly.
And the reality is that both Leni and BBM, by far, have far more converted to first preference. And if you look at some of the others, I think Publicus Asia, among others, they're showing that the elasticity in voter preference is also diminishing significantly. So, for instance, it looks like in the Robredo and BBM camp, up to 70% are saying they're not going to change their mind. Again, I'm not taking each survey as on face value. I think we have to triangulate them. But I think there's this perception in the Isko camp is that they have so much room for improvement while the Leni camp is hitting a ceiling. I'm not sure about that because if you look at the Pulse Asia survey, it looks at more than 10 points that Leni can improve further from her 24 points. So she can still go up to 30 points or more. And by the way, I'm not very sure about whether it's very clear to when you ask a person in the survey, sinong clearly number 2, number 3 preference, I think it's much more fluid than that. As I've been arguing, I think there are a lot of folks among Generation Z who are not very invested in different camps. There are folks in Mindanao who are not very happy Sara didn't run. I think they're much softer than many people assume. So for me, to dismiss that Leni is hitting her ceiling is a little bit premature, while at the same time I understand where the Isko camp is coming because they're looking at how much potential they may have because their ceiling might be also very high.
Yeah. Remember a few weeks back, Richard, you were here in the show when we talked about itong unity, no? Because nga, ang iniisip nila lahat is, and maybe we wrongly thought, no? Na parang, how do you defeat the number 1, BBM? Because he's so way ahead, and then, ang daming daw na natatakot sa isang Marcos Jr. presidency, di ba? So, of course, to do that, you'd need to, unite. Para bang sana one-on-one na lang yung labanan, di ba?
But this
now you're saying
negotiation
is
should have
no,
been
it's
done
not
a
gonna
year
happen.
ago, right?
Yeah.
And that was the point. And what's happening now is each candidate is giving a different version of what went wrong. Isko has his own version. I mean, I know what this version is. Senator Lacson even responded to one of my tweets arguing against that version. The Leni camp, I'm sure Barry has his own version.
Yeah.
For me, we're the adults in the room. I'm sorry to say it, because this is not how adults handle politics, just to be honest about it. I know I'm the youngest guy in this panel, but I just have to say it. I have to say, I'm not very impressed with the level of maturity I'm saying here. Everyone is like passing the buck.
And I remember what you said a few weeks back, again, when you were on the show, di ba? You were saying, dapat natapos to March. No, ano ba tayo ngayon? April, ano tayo ngayon?
Kaya nga sabi ko, diminishing elasticity in voter preference, that's a very important factor. I think it was 45 to 50% last month. Now it's down to 30% who may change their mind based on some of the surveys. Again, I think it's perhaps more than that. But I'm looking at the numbers, it's not looking very encouraging. I think we're past the point on that, yeah.
Yeah, way past the point. No?
Yeah.
So we're looking at President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. We're gonna have to take a quick break.
Not
More insights from our guests. Oo, talaga. May pag-asa pa raw. When we return, this is Politics as Usual. Stay with us.
It's a big challenge, and had they decided to unite and support a single candidate, it would still be challenging, but it would be attainable. No? But at this point, the challenge for the Robredo camp is really just to continue, because looking at the Okta research results and the Pulse Asia survey results, the momentum is on their side. But time is of the essence.
Welcome back to Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Nag-iisip tuloy ako dun sa title ng episode natin. Siguro dapat tanggalin na natin yung question mark, no? But let's check first in with Barry Gutierrez. Again, spokesman for the Leni Robredo campaign. Barry.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Richard and Gilbert had already said a mouthful, so I'm sure you want to jump right in and respond. Go right ahead.
Well, first, I feel compelled to agree with Richard, because I don't want to be confused with one of the non-adults in the room. But I think I agree with what July said in the last segment. It's our strategy really at this point is just to continue on. The recent surveys have been very encouraging. Her numbers are continuing to go up. And one thing I think that we have to factor in is the unprecedented level of support coming from volunteers and ordinary people, I think, is something new to elections. I have personally never seen this level of volunteer engagement in any other national campaign that I have been part of or that I have observed. And I think that going into the last 20 days, that's really going to be the key to pulling out a last-minute victory here in this election.
Volunteer engagement needs to be reflected in the votes, right? Is that what's going to happen, or are we going to see a President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.? Or, and a President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the first runner-up who is going to be VP Leni? Is that what we're going to see?
I'm sorry, Pia, you're breaking up. Your audio is kind of choppy.
Okay. Are we going to see a President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and a first runner-up Leni Robredo? Because because volunteer engagement, increased volunteer engagement, and no matter how wonderful and nice and cute your rallies are, but if those are not translated into votes, then that's nothing.
Well, we think that's precisely what I was saying. We think they will translate into votes. We think that the house-to-house campaign, the efforts being done by volunteers at the grassroots level within their own networks, on election day, that will translate into votes. So I don't agree that 3 weeks away from the election, we're already going to call it. I think that a lot can still happen. I think that the momentum is ours, and we are still going to win this come election day.
Doesn't it worry you that, according to the studies that the Isko Moreno campaign came up with, na ang second preference is 80% of Isko votes, if he were to withdraw, would go to BBM. Isn't that worrisome for you?
Well, first of all, if you look at different surveys, they will tell you different things about second preference insofar as voters are concerned. That's the first point. The second point is, and here I agree with Richard completely, it's sort of an abstract question if you ask a voter who will be your second choice. I don't think people have actually, contemplated and thought the answer to that as thoroughly as they actually decide on the first choice for candidates. So I think that it's more fluid than the numbers would lead us to believe, and that there is still a lot of room for conversion. Besides, just going by the trends in recent surveys, it is VP Leni who has gained the most out of any of the candidates, which is proof positive that people are in fact shifting to her, at least in the last few weeks of this campaign.
Buddy Zamora, Sir Buddy, a campaign spokesperson, campaign manager for Senator Manny Pacquiao. What are your thoughts on this?
How's that again?
What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Well, all of this are speculation, no? We're just about 19 days from election day. There's no need to speculate. Let's just wait for the results of the ultimate survey on May 9. Because all of these are just, all assumptions. Let's just wait. It's near enough. No need to speculate on who will be one or two. We will know soon enough. For our part, we will just continue doing what we have been doing, relying on our grassroots campaign, also on our Libreng Pabahay program, and also we're relying on our religious sector group support to carry us through to election day.
We're going to have to take another and final quick break. This is Politics as Usual. Stay tuned.
That is pure speculation, no? Because even if they win, there will always be that possibility of political instability.
We are on our final stretch. This is Politics as Usual. Kausapin natin muna si Barry Gutierrez. Let's talk about that, Barry. Itong instability, no? Yellow turned pink forces, sa inyo daw manggagaling just in case Marcos wins the presidency. Can you speak to that?
Well, first of all, the fact that it was raised at all in that press conference, I think, was highly irresponsible. They were responding to a supposed quote that was completely fabricated, completely false, something that the vice president never said.
Yeah.
Like all the other candidates, we are committed to having a orderly, honest, clean elections. That hopefully the results will be clear and uncontested. That's why we are monitoring all these all the news that has come out recently regarding supposed problems with the data breach of Smartmatic. But rest assured, if there's going to be trouble here, it's not going to come from our camp. And to suggest otherwise is, I think, the height of irresponsibility.
So, no, if let's say the elections are clean and honest, etc., no, orderly, and if Marcos Jr., if it is a President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. At the end, you're not going to make trouble after that. You're not going to make
Well,
it difficult for the next administration.
Well, let's be clear. That's a very, very hypothetical circumstance because we feel that VP Leni will emerge the winner in the end. But if, in case she isn't, and so long as the elections are credible, they are honest, then clearly we won't be the ones to start anything here. I think that we should all be united as a people, and all the camps should actually be saying the same thing, that we should respect the results of the election because that's how democracy works.
Yeah.
Sometimes the person who gets elected is not the person you want, but we just have to respect that and expect that that person will become a president for everyone.
Richard?
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the strange things that I'm not very comfortable with is these accusations that the opposition could be involved in kind of rigging the elections and all, which is completely preposterous because it's the current administration, right,
Yeah.
which is handling it, not the opposition. So if there's anyone who should be concerned, it's probably the other side. I'm not saying there's a problem. I'm just saying if there's going to be concern, logically it should come from that side. The other thing that is making me very uncomfortable about this race is that unlike the previous elections, we don't have the two authoritative survey agencies regularly coming out. So remember in the previous elections, you had SWS and Pulse Asia. They had media sponsorship. Every other week or so, you would see results. It's easy for people to track it. They correctly predicted Vice President Leni Robredo's victory in the Pulse Asia survey in 2016, among other things. Now it's not as regular. There's a delay time. There are other new players coming in. We're not very sure about the
Baka
institution.
pandemic factor din. Ano?
There are many factors, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, so the pandemic is also making it more difficult.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I'm not also comfortable with it is this kind of aura of inevitability. We see some people are saying, it's just a matter of time, and labanan dito is for the second place and all of that. First of all, it just defeats the whole purpose of an election, right? And more than that, it creates this kind of expectation that if anything outside that happens, then automatically something went wrong, right? And I don't think that's very helpful for democracy. I'm very, very worried about that. At the same time, we have other camps who are on this total mode of, no, all the surveys are just a sham. We have our own surveys and all.
Yeah.
So this
Because
is where...
every last one of them is saying that
So
sila
this is my
mananalo
worry.
eh.
If we have no base, right? If we have no base, if we're all going to be post-truth or our own truth and all, it's going to be much more difficult for us to accept the ultimate result of this. And let's be honest, where Isko's strength is that in terms of net trust rating, I think he does better than most other candidates because he's closest to the median voter. While if you look at Bongbong Marcos and Leni, they're both polarizing. So whichever wins, maybe one has more support than the other, they're quite polarizing, at least to a significant plurality.
Yeah.
So
well, ito rin yung sinasabi
and
ni
this
Isko,
is the
di ba?
concern. So
Oo,
that's where I see where the Isko argument is coming. You vote me. Yes, there's some people who don't like what I say, magaspang ako. But the median voter, the 60%, let's call it, are going to be okay with me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yung
not
ayaw
as
kay Marcos,
polarizing
yung
as the others.
yung ayaw sa
Especially before
Pinklawan,
press
oh.
conference, I think he was not as polarizing. That is what I'm saying.
Especially before the press
Yes, I
conference. So
think
now
that-
he is polarizing.
I don't know, but it's
let's
not
see,
helpful.
no?
I'm just saying it's not helpful
Yeah.
to him, and I think also to the race. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, a few weeks ago nga, when you were here, di ba, ang pinag-uusapan natin, dapat kasi may runoff elections. Ang hirap ng ganito, 10 kandidato mo. But anyway, okay. Final words, very quickly, we'll start with Sir Buddy Zamora. Sir?
Yes. I'll make a fearless prediction that the elections will go ahead in May 9 without anybody backing out from the race. So there are 10 candidates we have for president. All will remain running until the very end. That's my fearless prediction. And what we're hoping for is we will be the dark horse to perhaps win over the perceived number 1 and number 2.
Well, yeah, everyone else is saying they'll be the dark horse. Thank you so much, Sir Buddy Zamora. Let's go to Barry Gutierrez. Final words, Barry.
Well, I agree with Richard. It's too early to call it. The latest pulse survey actually was conducted in March, so it's almost a month out of date. And with 20 days left, I think that clearly the momentum is ours, and the surveys actually indicate that her numbers are on the upswing. So we think that we're in a good position here, and that on election day we will be able to pull up, well, maybe a surprise to some, but definitely to us something that was well within reach all along.
O yun, lahat mananalo. Gilbert Lowenko.
Well, of course, all campaign managers will never admit that they're losing. It's a given that, but we believe so that we still have a chance at it. And like Richard said, we're aiming for a particular niche, the one that don't like either. And we feel that there is still a large majority.
The ones who feel caught in between.
Because, our voters are normally silent.
Yeah.
So we're banking on that, and we still feel we have a chance to win. But all of us, in our campaign, the symbol we wear on our shirt is not a decoration. It's called God first. So we all believe that, we are where we're supposed to be, and whatever will happen, that's what God wants. So it's not a decoration. We firmly believe in that. But we're going to fight it out till the end, no matter what. And my candidate's out there slugging it out. I mean, he's the most active of all candidates. He is focused and relentless in terms of campaigning. So we're banking on that, and and as Mr. Barry said, we know whatever happens, as long as it's a credible election, we will respect the mandate of the people.
Richard?
Well, I talk too much. I think I made a lot of enemies. I'm just gonna keep it very short. All I'm gonna say is this: I believe this is the most important elections in the past half a century as far as the Philippines is concerned. Whoever becomes the next president, they're either gonna pick up where Duterte left, or they're gonna reverse where Duterte has gone wrong, right? Or right, depending on how we wanna see it. Kaya the stakes are extremely high. So I hope voters out there, they're not looking at this like a horse race lang. I know we make it look like that, but my God, the next generation will pay the price if we get this wrong.
Thank you so much to our guests tonight. Mr. Buddy Zamora, campaign manager for Senator Manny Pacquiao. Attorney Barry Gutierrez, spokesperson for VP Leni Robredo's campaign, Gilbert Lowenko of the Isko Moreno campaign, and Richard Heydarian, regular analyst on the show. Co-anchor na, na-promote ka na. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us tonight. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare, but we can talk about it here at this table on this show. Your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8 p.m.